Folks, good afternoon. Let me just stop sharing. My name is Paul Rencken. I'm from FEDSAS and welcome to this Q&A session. See the numbers are coming through. Alrieta Delaray is on board as well with us, and Jaco Deacon is also going to be joining us. He's double shifting at the moment, attending an inauguration meeting with the SACE Council, but he will be online and coming through in the process. So welcome everybody. It's just on 3 o'clock. Haven't got a huge crowd this morning, but it doesn't, this afternoon rather, but it doesn't matter who is here. If people have got questions, you're welcome to please ask them and we can handle the questions as we go through the process. I'm just going to quickly go onto share screen here and just let you know that's what we're going to be talking about today. Let me just check that we've got the right sharing in place there. That's great. And then just to let you know, there are provincial managers throughout the country. If you want to get hold of them, please get hold of them. I know a few of them are coming through on board today. So welcome to those that are coming on board. It's really great to have you involved in the process. I'm just doing a few tweaks here as we go through the process. Yeah, so they're the provincial managers from Gauteng all the way through to the Western Cape. There are the details of our provincial managers, and please get hold of them. So that you can be in contact with them if you have got any further questions, if by any chance we don't get to your questions that we're going to be answering today. With that, I'll just need to let you know where you can ask questions, and there is a Q&A box. Jaco Deacon's just come in before I'll hand over to him now. There's a Q&A box. If you wouldn't mind just typing something in there so we know that you are alive and well with us in this session. As I said, we're expecting a bit of a smaller crowd today, but that doesn't really matter. Thanks for those of you that have sent questions through. If you are familiar with Zoom, you'll see there's a new process in place that you can put questions through on your registration process. And those of you that did, it was really great to pick those up. But if there are any questions, if you wouldn't mind dropping them into the Q&A box as well, and maybe just to prompt you, if you wouldn't mind just letting us know whereabouts you are in the country. I won't ask you if you're hot or cold or windy. We are windy in KZN. Maar laat ons weet waar julle is. Miskien is julle in 'n groepsessie. Miskien is daar 'n paar mense by. If you are on a mobile device, you will see there is a participant's icon with a voice note or a voice cloud. Click on that and you'll be able to ask questions through that as well. So yeah, that's really where we're sitting with the questions today. I'm going to just welcome Jaco, and then what I'm going to do is just go through the questions first. There are 8 questions that were sent through, or we've grouped them into 8. I'm going to go through those first so you can see what the questions are that we're going to be handling, and then Jaco is going to respond to them and handle them from that side. So good afternoon, goeiemiddag, Dr. Deacon.
Meneer Rencken, dankie. Lekker om saam te gesels. Ek groet sommer in Afrikaans, maar ons sal die vrae mooi tweetalig hanteer. Paul het nou gesê ek is eintlik in 2 vergaderings gelyk. Vandag is die inhuldiging van die Raad vir Opvoeders op SACE, soos hy maar bekend staan, se raadslede. En die minister het versoek dat hulle vergadering 'n uur vroeër begin. Ek gaan so die eerste gedeelte mis van daai funksie en dan skuif ek oor. Maar ek het hulle so op 'n tweede skermpie en ek sien hulle vergadering is nog nie reg nie. So we are ready to proceed. So thank you for the questions, good questions. So Paul, I think we can start.
Yeah, let me just throw them up as I suggested we would. First question is about the revised school holiday. Is it real or not? Fake or real? We'll discuss that. There have been a number of newspaper reports with regards to that. We'll sal hierdie een vat, dis toelatings en kapasiteitbepaling. Ons het dit in 'n vorige webinar daaroor gepraat. Nou wil ons 'n bietjie meer weet, hoe kry ons daardie inligting en hoe doen ons daardie kapasiteitsbepaling? Ons praat oor kommunikasie. Daar's 'n vraag oor watter kommunikasiesoort moet gebruik word. Kan ons voorstelle gee? En dan watter rol speel die beheerliggaam in dat daar beter kommunikasie is tussen die skool en die ouers? Dan 'n bietjie daardeur werk. Online learning, learner online learning, is it necessary or not? Is it a basic side issue or is it a reality? We'll have a look at that and answer that. Daar was 'n vraag oor kleuterskole, beheerliggaam, ECD section, what is the role with regards to governing bodies and ECD centers in those setups, and how could they manage effectively in that process? And the last 2 questions were about human resources, well, focused primarily on human resources, different types of leave, what types of leave are available, and I think also then we looked at the discipline procedures with regards to misconduct of both teachers and learners. If there are any other questions, please feel free to type them in, drop them into the Q&A box, and then we'll be able to then share them with everybody and then take them through those questions. So that's a bit of a potpourri, I think the best English word would be, a bit of a mixed bag of questions. We are very happy that there aren't too many questions there about standard operating procedures and COVID protocols. We are like everybody else, a little bit tired of the subject, but it is a reality, folks. It is around, and we do have to handle it. So we're not ignoring it. We're not going to be that proverbial ostrich, but it is nice to get some operational questions. Good to see governing bodies getting their teeth into the meat of governance as we head towards our training processes in this, the first year of the new governing body. So with that, Jaco, over to you. Thanks very much.
Ja, dankie Paul. Soos jy sê, is lekker om 'n paar ander vrae as COVID te hanteer. En die eerste vraag jy onthou gaan oor die Oktober vakansie. Ek vra watter vakansie? Currently there's a debate. Will there be a school holiday? Will there not be a school holiday? So what I've done here is just 3 recent articles in the media about this. On News 24, it's an article that you'll find today. It's a joke. Proposal to cancel October school holidays as parents outraged. It's still a proposal. Let me just emphasize that. And then on Marula Media, one of the Afrikaans network, says skole sluit dalk nie in Oktober. And the same more or less in the new Netwerk 24 onderwyssektor Oktober vakansie nie van die baan nie, maar dit word bespreek. So what's the position? Are we going to have a holiday? Yes or no? We don't know. Honestly, we don't know. We were part of, we given an opportunity to give inputs. We received an invitation from the ministry and from the DBE. As usual, we could respond. And one of the proposals is let's cancel the October school holidays. Let's add 1 day in that September long weekend. So on the 23rd will be a holiday. 24th is Heritage Day, and then it's a long weekend. And our position is straightforward to say, no, let's not let's not cancel the holiday, number one. The decision-making process to do the catch-up work should be in the hands of the school leadership. Hulle weet wat is die beste vir daai skool. Moet gaan ons 'n naweke inwerk, dalk bietjie langer skoolure of ons is dalk voor. Die skole van die beheerliggaam gaan die beste weet, is die kinders moeg, is die onderwysers moeg, is ons vroeg of is ons laat. So leave that in the hands of the school leadership. And lastly, we said, we know for a fact that the last 2 weeks in December, up till the 15th, that's definitely not the time for schooling because the provincial officials request schools to submit all the results by the end of November. So by the 23rd, 24th, 25th November, schools should be done with the exams. So take that away. Laat die punte later ingedien word, dan maak ons alle verlore tyd op sonder om die vakansie te verander. But the bottom line is, it's still in discussion. Apparently, there's a meeting this afternoon, what they call HEDCOM, where the minister and the DG will meet with all the provincial heads of education. And there's a committee called CEM, the Council of Education Ministers. And now they'll have to discuss all the proposals and all the feedback they've received. But I know for a fact that the SGB associations doesn't support the change. And out of the media reports, clearly there's no support from the union side. But we'll have to wait and see. And a calendar must be published before the school term is amended. So 'n kalender moet gepubliseer wees. Tot en met dan is dit maar media berigte. So nee, die oomblik wat ons weet wat gaan gebeur, gaan ons julle dadelik in kennis stel daarvan. Paul, die volgende een het gegaan oor admissions. In the admissions linked to health and safety. With the reference to the Oorverval school and the court case they had about 2 years ago. Well, let's start at the beginning. When we talk about admissions, you must know the capacity of your school. So use the FEDSAS document, our draft policy and admissions, and there's a capacity determination as well. So as jou skool, as jy nog nie weet hoe groot is jou skool en hoeveel kinders kan in die skool inkom, nie gebruik dit. Die vraag gaan spesifiek oor die health and safety audits and reports. Do you have contact details of the companies that do the work? Should we use them? Can we use them? The answer is yes. Use them, because they will look from a health and safety side at your capacity. Number-wise, you may be fine, but when they look at your facilities and they consider exits and entrances for emergency vehicles, and is it possible for 200 kids to exit the second floor safely and so forth. So it's good to have a report like that. But I know those reports can be very expensive. So is there a list? I'm reluctant to give you a list of service providers. Number one, because we don't want to advertise on our platform if we don't know everybody that's paying for the advert. But number two is it is part and parcel of every single workplace. So if I would give some advice, is ask the parents in your school community. Maybe somebody is already involved in that sector or operates a business who use a company. Very little companies will work across the whole country. So talk to your local expert. Hoor in jou skoolgemeenskap, wie van jou ouers dien dalk op so 'n komitee? Wie is die plaaslike diensverskaffers? Of hoor by jou buurskool? Het hulle dalk iemand gebruik in daai omgewing? So ek wil regtig aanbeveel om te kyk na iemand wat in daai gemeenskap dalk werk en bekend is. As jy glad nie regkom nie, bel ons, dan kan ons vir jou dalk 'n naam of 2 gee, maar ek dink regtig die beste is binne jou gemeenskap. Ek was self 'n beheerliggaam voorsitter gewees. Ons het nog 'n ouer gekry wat in die spasie werk, en sy werkgewer het gesê deel van hulle corporate social responsibility sal hulle gratis die assistering vir die skool kom doen elke jaar en 'n verslag vir ons kom gee. But that only happened because of the personal relationship. So start within your school community. These health and safety companies must be registered. There's an association for those guys who do the work, and they've got a standard form to do. So very, very useful to have, but reach out to your school community first. As jy regtig sukkel, praat met ons. Dan die volgende een het gegaan oor kommunikasie. Wat kan nou alles gebruik? En die bottom line is, in 'n tyd soos nou kan jy nooit genoeg kommunikeer nie. Sê eerder vir die ouers, jammer dat ons te veel goed vir julle stuur, as wat ouers aan die ander kant sê, goeie ons weet nie wat in die skool aangaan. So, wat jy ook al doen, maak seker die mense weet. And that's for both. The communication obligation is not only on your principal and on the staff at school, but also from the governance structure. Communicate clearly, frequently, and use all available channels. And that's part of the question I asked, what should we use? What's available? Again, start in your own school. Look at your traditional letters. Hy briefie wat saam met die kind huis toe gaan. As dit vir jou werk, gebruik hom weer. If you have a proper list of emails, utilize the emails. Send a SMS or the WhatsApp. If you've got all three, use all three. It should not be one or the other. It should be, let's use both. It should be an and. I've added D6 there. You know that we communicate through the D6 school communicator. At least close to 2,000 schools use the communicator. It's a good channel to use, to utilize. Different apps, use that. Or you can have your parent meetings through Zoom or Teams or the Google products, and where you give a login, like we're doing today. We're not busy with the Zoom session, we're actually busy with training. We're engaging. I've received questions, I give feedback, you can ask more questions, you can do exactly the same in your school community. So gebruik daardie platforms vir jou vergaderings, vir kommunikasie, en natuurlik, jy kan altyd die mense na die skool toe nooi, as jy binne die getalle bly. Wees veilig, volg die protokolle en hou daai vergaderings. Party ouers moet maar daar kom, party gaan nie dalk deur hierdie manier bereik, maar moenie besluit op een en jy hou by die een. Gebruik meerdere kanale, as jy sien een word meer gebruik as die ander, kyk daarna, of doen ook opname in jou skool. Wie gebruik wat? Dan praat ons goed en effektief met mekaar. So kommunikasie, crucial. Een belangrike les wat ons geleer het by ons konsultante in veral die spasie van sosiale media. Ons dink kinders is lui om te lees. Hulle ouers is nog luier om te lees. So wat jy ook al doen, moet ons baie meer videomateriaal gebruik. So as die beheerliggaam voorsitter praat oor die begroting, stuur 'n video boodskap om te sê julle word genooi na die begrotingsvergadering toe. Ons beplan om die skoolgeld sommer baie te verhoog, behalwe as julle in die vergadering gaan wees. On principle, just to encourage the parents to say, please send your children to school. We vaccinated 90% of the staff. We clean the school. This is a safe place. Please send your children. Short video messages. I'm talking about 60 seconds, 30 to 60 max, 2 minutes. That's it. And it's very effective. So moenie die video onderskat nie. So terug by kommunikasie. Wat jy ook al doen dit net gereeld. En maak seker mense weet hoe jy kommunikeer. En dit sny so 'n bietjie aan by die volgende vraag wat spesifiek vra oor die online training. Moet ons dit doen? Wat as daar verskonings is? Waar posisioneer die beheerliggaam homself? En ek dink as 'n ou praat oor online training, I think the biggest hurdle is access. So if you as governors can answer the access question, then I think you'll be able to roll out. Now on access, you've got normally 2 excuses. Either I don't have a device as a learner, or I struggle with my device. So the kind of training should be appropriate for the devices available. So remember that this is a your cell phone is a very powerful tool. 'n Slim foon is eintlik 'n rekenaar wat ook kan bel. En 'n WhatsApp is net so 'n kragtige medium om te gebruik. Die skool kan besluit. Ons gaan vir die onderwysers slim toestelle gee, het sy 'n skootrekenaar of 'n tablet, omdat ons verwag het hulle moet aangaan met leer. Datagewys dieselfde, niks verhoed 'n beheerliggaam om te begroot om data vir die personeel beskikbaar te stel. Veral as die beheerliggaam van die personeel verwag om aanlyn klas te gee en so meer. Ek onthou toe lockdown ons die eerste ronde geslaan het en ons moes kospakkies by ons skool begin gee, het ons mekaar gesê, ons moet ook data vir daardie gesinne gee wat sukkel. Want ons stuur inligting vir die leerders en as pappa en mamma nie kan kos koop nie, kan hulle ook nie data koop nie. So ons het data beskikbaar gestel uit 'n borgskap uit vir daardie gesinne wat ook kospakkies ontvang. But you can be creative. You can extend your Wi-Fi network or to make an access point where your parents and learners can sit and update and upload and download information and in a Wi-Fi hotspot area where you give the password to them. So access is the issue. What's the possible hurdle? Is it our devices? If it's a teacher, how can we assist? If it's a parent, to see what's available, or maybe ask for all devices, redistribute as a possible project, and then the issue of data or accessibility, and consider a hotspot at your school. Regtig goedkoper om 'n baie groot hotspot te gaan skep as wat uitnodigend die goedjies deurstuur. By die skool waar ek beheerliggaam voorsitter was, kon ouers by een van die punte by die skool in hulle voertuig sit, buite die skoolterrein. Kon ons omtrent so 20 voertuie parkeer en almal kon die Wi-Fi optel op daai spesifieke hoek. En hy so opgestel, ons het vir ouers gesê, jy kan oor die naweek, in die nagte, wanneer jy ook al daar verby ry, stop gehou, dan kan jy data kry. So be creative. It is allowed. There was a section 37. The SGB can spend money on activities of the SGB or then school activities, of opvoedkundige aktiwiteite. En ek dink dit is nou kerndeel daarvan. As jy nog wonder, gaan kyk bietjie wat die Senter vir Tegnologie alles gedoen het. Rian en ons vennote het wonderlike oplossings in daai verband. Paul, the next question is about the preschools, kleuterskole, or the ECD, Early Childhood Development Centers. From experience, all our provincial managers will tell you, those parents are very hands-on. Of het nou 'n direksie, of 'n komitee, of 'n beheerliggaam is, daai ouers wil gewoonlik baie doen. So die vraag is, wat is die rol van die beheerliggaam by 'n kleuterskool? Eintlik presies dieselfde as wat die rol gaan wees by 'n laerskool of 'n hoërskool of 'n kerkraad of 'n klub. The governing body at the preschool is still responsible for good governance. To make sure we have policies in place. We do have a budget. We can manage our finances and our assets. And in essence, you create a framework where the professionals can work. Nou weet ek, ons het baie interessante aktiwiteite, daar speletjies word aangekoop en die verhouding tussen die ouer en die kind en die ouer en die opvoeder is baie anders, is baie nouer met mekaar betrokke. Maar die goeie beginsels van beheer bly steeds daar. Dis baie keer meer informeel dalk by 'n kleuterskool, maar dit vat nie die verantwoordelikheid of die verantwoordbaarheid weg. So as jy wonder, praat eerder met ons. 'n Vergadering kan meer informeel wees, maar die besluite wat geneem word is net so belangrik soos by 'n hoërskool met 'n paar miljoen se begroting. So serious, important, keep in line with good governance and talk to us. We just formed a task team to on ECD centers or schools to work out specific products for those schools, for those preschools, and also to assist the department in this takeover process, this transition from the ECD centers from social development to education. So we're keeping a close eye on that sector. Daar was daar 'n lekker vraag gewees oor verlof. Wat se tipe verlofwe is daar alles? En daar's nou baie. Basic Conditions of Employment Act, Wet op Basiese Diensvoorwaardes skryf dit voor. And maybe I should start with the second last bullet there. Please, if you employ people at your school, if you're the employer, please use the FEDSAS document. Please use the FEDSAS examples, because all these kinds of leave are already included in our contracts and explained, and it complies with all the provisions and the time frames. Nou, as ek so vinnig kan deurhardloop, ons begin met ons jaarlikse verlof, en dan 'n ou siekverlof. Nou, jaarlikse verlof in 'n skool, jy wil nie mense met verlof vat in die kwartaal nie, ons wil graag die verlof in die skoolvakansies hê. So kyk mooi wat sê ons dokumente daaroor. Daar's baie FEDSAS dokumente, veral oor menslike hulpbronne op die webblad. Die siekverlof, daardie 36 of 30 dae, dis eintlik 30 in onderwys, dis die hoeveelheid dae wat jy in 6 weke siklus sou werk. Verlof vir gesinsverantwoordelikhede, 3 dae in die privaat sektor, 5 dae in die staatsdiens. Parental leave is the 10 extra days now, or it's unpaid, for the birth of a child. So papa kan nou 10 dae kry, maar daai verlof is nou nie betaald nie. The adoption leave is a new one, as well as the commissioning parental leave, where there's a surrogate mother involved, time spent, but on the surrogate mother or the commissioning parental leave, only one of the two parents can take it. And the adoption leave and the commissioning parenting leave can be up to 10 weeks, but it's unpaid from the employer side. Nou as jy regtig wonder om te sê, ja, hierdie goed maak my kop deurmekaar, gaan kyk op ons webblad, ons gee lekker uiteensetting hoe die goed werk, en as 'n boek hieroor, menslike hulpbronbestuur in openbare skole, human resource management in public schools. Obviously what I've just explained is applicable in terms of the employment relationship, in terms of the Labour Relations Act. So as iemand in terme van die staatsdienswet in diens geneem is, dan is daar 'n bietjie ander bepalings, of as jy in terme van die wet op diensneming van opvoeders in diens geneem is, lyk dit ook so 'n bietjie anders. Maar daardie is die algemene tipe verlofwe wat ons standaard eintlik in ons dienskontrakte het. So daar in rooi het ek onderop net gesê, gaan kyk na die PAM, the Personnel Administrative Measures, especially for the educators employed by the department. Different time frames as prescribed for the public or for the private sector, and then the Public Servants Act for your non-educators employed by the state. En dis amper dieselfde nou by dissipline, maar daar's nou 'n goeie vraag, weet, hoe werk dissipline met die kinders en die groot mense? Kom ons begin met die groot mense, want dis twee verskillende stelsels, nê. Nee. So by die volwasse mense in die skool is daar eintlik 3 stelle reëls. Die eerste stel geld vir die personeel wat in diens is van die skool, of die sogenaamde beheerliggaam aanstellings. The Labour Relations Act is applicable. You're going to follow the processes set out in your contract or your code of conduct in terms of that contract. Then you need to follow that process. If the issue is with the educators employed by the state, then the school principal must follow Schedule 2 of the Employment of Educators Act. And there's a formal process. The misconduct is listed in Section 17 and Section 18. That's a longer process. And if the issue is with a non-educator employed by the state, then again, the Public Servants Act will be applicable. But I really try to explain that in this book as well, and you'll find a link on the website. But you can also go to our legal opinions for SGB staff, and you'll get an example of the code there. Nou, ons het by FEDSAS nog al 'n paar kursusse en webinare oor hierdie dissipline onderwerp al gehad. Gaan krap 'n bietjie rond daar tussen ons video's en jy gaan nog 'n paar hieroor kry. Die leerderdissipline lyk ook anders. Die leerder se dissipline word gereguleer op skoolvlak deur die skool se gedragskode vir leerders. So the code of conduct for learners is applicable misconduct and disciplinary hearings of the learners. In terms of the SA Schools Act, and I should have included a provincial act as well, at least in 4 of the provinces, there's very specific prescriptions on how to conduct a disciplinary hearing. If you're on KZN, 3 people will serve on the panel. If you're in the Western Cape, 5 people will serve on a disciplinary panel, and the other provinces, a single chairperson. So jy moet 'n bietjie weet net wat in jou provinsie aangaan. Weer eens, moenie worry nie. Gaan na FEDSAS se webblad toe. Gaan kyk na die provinsiale regulasie of skakel die provinsiale bestuurder en ons kan vinnig advies gee. Maar wat interessant is, die verloop van 'n verhoor, of dit vir 'n leerder is en of dit vir 'n volwasse mens is, daardie verloop van 'n verhoor lyk baie dieselfde. Maar ons gebruik verskillende stelle reëls om daarby uit te kom. If you venture into that, it's difficult just on a single question to give the detail. Please call your provincial manager and we'll gladly assist you or provide you with the detailed document. But there's help. Moenie worry nie, daar is hulp. Gesels met ons. Paul, I think I've covered the first 8 questions.
Great. Let me just come back on board here so that we've got ourselves in picture here. There we go. That's super. Yeah, thanks very much. I think that is a wonderful overview of what's happening in our school environment. I was just sitting back listening to it, and it really just covers all the processes that we're looking at. There are 2 more questions, Jaco, that came in, or one's a question and one is a comment. I just want to get them right so that we don't see them as responding to each other. Let me just share them with you there that we can bring them through. There we go. So there's a question there. Let's just check that we're on the place. Yeah, there's a question there. Is it fair and okay for a school to wait until 25% of the learners test positive for COVID before the head of education can close the school? And then the second one was more a comment with regards to leave. While you're talking about leave, it came in from that side. So yeah, let's handle that first question and then maybe response to that comment.
Yeah, Paul, remember it's difficult to apply the SOPs generally, and that's why we do have the standard operating procedures for the educational sector. I'm going to refer you to the website again. If you go to our documentation, there's a specific link to the COVID documents and the COVID legal opinions, and then all the regulations or legal documents that's applicable during the COVID pandemic. So if you click on that link, there's a document, Standard Operating Procedures or SOPs in Education during the COVID process. And they make provision for 5 different scenarios in your school. Either where children test positive and they're not at school, children or educators, or where they seem to have symptoms at the screening process, or where they've been in contact with somebody with COVID outside the school and what the impact will be, or if a learner tested positive and they had contact in the school. So all 5 scenarios will deal with a different position. Now, the bottom line is your 25% could be throughout the school and they haven't been in close contact, not necessarily with one another. But the rule of thumb is, if you've been in contact, the isolation period is 10 days. And you'll see throughout the SOPs, the emphasis is for how long can we keep the school open until it's irresponsible. So sometimes if the pandemic is in your school hostel, your principal and the Department of Health would tend to close the school earlier, not even wait for the 25% to say, listen, we need to get the guys back home. This is a crisis. Or if it's a big school and you've got open spaces, then maybe they'll decide 25% is still doable because they're in isolation. The aim of the SOPs is to create a safe school. And if we can have a safe school, even with 30% of the learners at home, then the risk is not necessarily at school level. And that's why it's so important, Manula, that you do engage with the Provincial Department of Education and with the Department of Health. It should not be for the school principal or the SGB to decide we're going to close the school. Consider all the circumstances, apply the SOPs, identify the risk, and then you proceed. As is, my high school boy is currently in isolation at home. The two boys sitting next to him in class tested positive for COVID. So he's in his 10 days now to see whether he's at risk. So he's in isolation in the Deacon household. So we're feeling that at home now. But again, I haven't decided to close the school, though there's a number of learners. But best advice, engage with your Provincial Department of Education as well as the Department of Health. You'll see in that SOP, there's an emergency contact number in every single province for an official at the Department of Health. And the general feedback that we're getting from all 9 provinces is that those officials are extremely helpful to assist schools in that decision-making process. Okay. The concessions, close contact, COVID, does not require leave forms but a written arrangement to complete their work from home. Thank you for that, Tony. I saw that question coming through. Again, the emphasis will be on the nature of the exposure. If you are COVID positive, some people are extremely lucky they're COVID positive, but they go basically without any symptoms and they can continue to work. They must self-isolate, but they can continue to work. And if you have the technology at your school or at the household, then that teacher can actually continue with his day-to-day tasks. Goeieste maar as mense wat lekker siek word hier, van 'n ernstig siek word, wat moet rus, wat glad nie kan werk nie. Dat die vakbonde en die departemente toe ooreenkomste met mekaar gaan sluit in die ELRC oor wat se verlof dit is, hoe praat met jou hoof. Hierdie word meer 'n kwessie as dit 'n beheerliggaam aanstelling is. So die beheerliggaam moet dan besluit, gaan ons dit as 'n siekverlof hanteer, as 'n spesiale verlof hanteer en hoe lank gaan ons dit hanteer? Want ons weet, daar's net beperkte fondse, ons kan nie altyd mense inbring nie. So praat so vinnig as moontlik met die skoolhoof, rapporteer dit by die departement en dan afhangende weer eens van die spesifieke omstandighede sal daar besluit word wat is die aard. Werk of nie werk nie, verlof of nie verlof nie, of wat se aard verlof is dan van toepassing. So Paul, that in a nutshell, I tried to cover that last one both in English and Afrikaans. So I hope I haven't confused anybody with both.
No, that's great. Thank you very much. And thanks for going through those questions. I think that, once again, it does put a lot of things in context. Again, thanks for the folks that have contributed the questions. If there are any other questions, please feel free to drop it into the chat box or into the Q&A box, and we'll be able to handle it from there. While we're waiting for those, I'll just remind you once again, the website that Jaco did refer to. Let me just make sure it's come up there. You'll see our website, www.fedsas.org.za. It does require individual login details. Part of the process is of added security. So if you are on a governing body and you're a FEDSAS member school and you can't access the website, please get hold of us and we'll help you get into that process and then handle it from there. And then while we're waiting, in case there are any other questions through, there's just our managers to get hold of them. Jaco did mention that. I dropped that in the chat box as well. Thank you very much for the nudge from Tully in the Western Cape. Tony Marshall is the Western Cape Provincial Manager, and those are his corrected details there. But there is a list of all the provincial managers throughout the country. So if you need to get hold of them, please do get hold of them. There's a wealth of information sitting with these folks, and you really just need to ask them. We don't know what you don't know, but we know where you need information and need to hand it through to us. So with that, and in the absence of any other questions, there is obviously something Jaco would like to add, because I see his hand go up. If there are any other questions, please put them in. We still have got a bit of time. We sort of planned for a 45-minute session. Jaco, you want to add something else into that?
Ja, Paul, ek sien ek net 'n WhatsApp nou gekry om te sê Jaco sê tog iets oor 1 meter, 1.5 meter of 0.5 meter. What's the position now? Because we're getting different messages either from the unions or from the media. The legal position is, in terms of the SOPs, it's 1 meter as well as the directions. So you can bring learners back. The social distance in education is 1 meter, 1 meter. Daar is gesprekke oor 0.5, but it's only a discussion. So we haven't had a meeting where the department shared any medical or scientific information about the 0.5. So the social distance is still 1 meter. Until we see new directions or regulations, whatever, that's the legal position. So ek wil nie nou verskriklik gaan raai of oor die meriete daarop ingaan nie. Iemand het ons gevra oor die naweek, wat is FEDSAS se standpunt oor die sosiale afstand? Baie eenvoudig. Ons moet ons nie laat lei deur politiek of deur 'n vakbond of deur 'n opinie van iemand nie. Kom ons gebruik mediese data. If there's clear scientific evidence and medical evidence that gives us new direction, either back to 1.5 or lower, or to keep it on 1 meter, we should be led by the scientific information, not by our feeling or by our constituency or our politics. So let's not guess. Nou, ek is mos nou 'n prokureur. So dit help nie vra vir my die mediese vraag nie. Ons is afhanklik van ons mediese en ons slim mense wat vir ons laat lei in hierdie sektor om te sê, hier is julle veilig of daar's die risiko. And we've requested the minister, if you do have the scientific information, please share it with the whole sector. Let's share it with the parents, the teachers, the SGBs. Everybody should know. So currently, 1 meter, 1 meter.
Okay, thank you very much. I think it is good. And once again, it shows the example of what Jaco was talking about communication. Use every channel available to communicate, folks. A WhatsApp message coming through. I picked up a WhatsApp message. There's emails that came through. So yeah, let's use those communications. With that, I think I'm going to close the session. I don't think there's any more we need to add. It's been a short, sharp session. An overall view, a number of questions from various aspects, which has really been great. So baie dankie almal. Lekker middag. Julle het so 'n bietjie meer tyd hierdie middag. Dit is nie 'n uur lank sessie, so 'n bietjie meer tyd vanmiddag om 'n bietjie anders te doen. Thank you very much. All the best with your tasks out there, and please get hold of us if you've got any further questions. Thank you very much, and thank you very much, Jaco.
Thanks. Bye-bye.